Over the past decade, Southeast Asia has grown to become one of the key regions for the United States. Politically and economically, Southeast Asia offers rapid economic growth and a variety of investment opportunities for American companies. The strengthening trade relations are also establishing it as a significant market for the U.S. However, some Americans tend to view Southeast Asia merely as a vacation destination or a region for economic gains, occasionally showing a lack of respect for the area and its people. It's important to remember that no nation survives through centuries by mere chance. The 11 countries of Southeast Asia are deserving of respect as winners of thousands of years of history. To foster a better understanding of Southeast Asia, I'll be discussing topics that can help in this regard. Today, as a sort of orientation, we will explore the characteristics of Southeast Asia, the regional positioning of each country and their interrelationships, including likes and dislikes, in a two-part series. The 11 countries of Southeast Asia are Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, Indonesia, East Timor, and the Philippines. Among these, Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, located on the continent, are also referred to as the Indo-Chinese nations. However, this term, coined by Western powers to denote countries situated between India and China, is somewhat derogatory, and it's better to avoid using it. As indicated by this term, a commonality among these Southeast Asian countries, except Thailand, is that they all were under European colonial rule. They also experienced Japanese occupation during World War II. Intriguingly, the type of colonial rule they were under significantly influenced their current political, social, and cultural landscapes. Until independence, Myanmar, Malaysia, Singapore, and Brunei were under British rule. Indonesia was a Dutch colony, the Philippines was under American control, and East Timor was a Portuguese colony. Most of these countries, influenced by their colonizers' parliamentary and electoral systems, saw the decline of monarchies. Elections are held, and except for Singapore, where a single party dominates, there's a relatively smooth transfer of power between different political parties. Brunei, originally an Islamic kingdom, remains an exception to this trend. On the other hand, Thailand, which did not experience colonial rule, still retains its monarchy, operating under a constitutional monarchy system. However, it can't be considered a fully democratic state, yet due to the immense influence of the king and the propensity of the military to stage coups whenever it sees fit. The countries that were French colonies are unique in their post-colonial trajectories. Those that were under French colonial rule uniformly experienced communist regimes after independence. This can be attributed to the fact that they gained independence without any experience in democracy, solely under the exploitative colonial regime of France. Among these, Vietnam and Laos remain under single-party rule, and while Cambodia does have opposition parties, a change of government is practically impossible, and a monarchy still exists there. Southeast Asia, with an area of about 5 million square kilometers, is home to approximately 610 million people. This region, representing 3.4% of the Earth's surface, contains 7.7% of its population, making it a densely populated area. Among these countries, Indonesia ranks first both in terms of land size and population, with a staggering 270 million people. On the other end of the spectrum, Brunei is the smallest in both size and population, housing only 450,000 people. Alongside East Timor, which has the shortest history of independence in the region, Brunei tends to have a lesser presence. However, having a large landmass and population does not necessarily equate to being a powerful nation. According to the 2022 survey by U.S. News and World Report, the most powerful countries in Southeast Asia are Vietnam and Singapore, ranking first and second, respectively. Vietnam's strong military capabilities and its recent rapid economic growth have earned it high scores, while Singapore's overwhelming economic strength is highly regarded. They are followed by Indonesia, Thailand, the Philippines, and Malaysia. But the gap between these nations isn't substantial, indicating that there is no absolute powerhouse leading Southeast Asia. In response to the incessant conflicts among relatively equal nations, 10 Southeast Asian countries, excluding East Timor, formed Association of Southeast Asian Nations in the mid to late 20th century, to promote peace and mutual development. However, this does not mean that long-standing conflicts have easily dissipated. These conflicts are integral in shaping the characteristics of modern Southeast Asia. To understand this, it's necessary to be aware of a few backgrounds, mainly three. One is the root of these long-standing conflicts. Southeast Asia is divided into two geographic realms. One is the continental realm, consisting of Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. And the other is the maritime realm, comprising Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, Indonesia, East Timor, and the Philippines. Generally, the nations within these realms have historically engaged in survival battles within their respective areas. In the continental realm, Myanmar and Cambodia were originally the main powers. The Khmer Empire of Cambodia, known for the magnificent Angkor Wat, dominated most of the region from the 9th century. Then, in the 13th century, Thailand emerged from the influence of China and gradually established itself, founding the Ayutthaya Kingdom in the 14th century. This kingdom eventually toppled the mighty Khmer Empire, causing a significant shift in Southeast Asia's power dynamics. Subsequently, Cambodia rapidly declined, becoming almost a vassal state to Thailand and Vietnam. Unlike Cambodia, which collapsed swiftly, Myanmar engaged in a long and grueling rivalry with Thailand. They fought over 30 major wars, with the fate of their nations at stake. Finally, in the 18th century, Myanmar conquered the seemingly invincible Ayutthaya. To obliterate their long-standing Thai adversaries, Myanmar decapitated Buddha statues and reduced the city to ruins. However, they soon faced a fierce counterattack from Thailand, leading to devastating revenge. If Western powers hadn't suddenly appeared, these nations would likely still be at war. With the retreat of European colonialism, the continental countries of Southeast Asia regained their original territories as independent nations. However, Thailand is somewhat discontent with this outcome. Before the arrival of the European powers, Thailand had dominated much of Southeast Asia. Now there's a lingering sense among some Thais that they have lost land to Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos. Most of the border disputes in this region stem from this historical context. The story of the maritime realm of Southeast Asia is somewhat similar, yet distinct from its continental counterpart. Traditionally, Malaysia has been the dominant power in this region. In fact, the people of Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei, East Timor, and the Philippines are all descendants who dispersed from the Malay Peninsula a long time ago. This explains the linguistic similarities among these countries. Except for the geographically distant Philippines, from the 7th century for several hundred years, these nations were all part of the Srivijaya Empire. Interestingly, it's not their differences but their similarities that often lead to conflicts among these sibling nations. We'll explore these sibling rivalries more in Part 2. These countries gained independence according to the territories occupied by European powers, and their borders were drawn to suit European interests. Much like in Africa, these arbitrarily drawn borders have become a source of conflict in Southeast Asia as well. The second factor is the economic disparity in the region. In terms of economic power, Singapore is in a league of its own in Southeast Asia, with a GDP per capita exceeding $80,000. However, it's a small city-state with a population of only about 6 million, which is a significant limitation. Thailand has a total GDP of $500 billion and a GDP per capita of $7,000. While this places it at a typical upper-middle-income country level, it has a stable economy supported by a population of 72 million. Though some may underestimate Thailand, it is undoubtedly a land of opportunity for its Southeast Asian neighbors. Many people from Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos work in Thailand as laborers to earn a living. In the maritime realm of Southeast Asia, Malaysia plays a role similar to Thailand. Although Malaysia has a smaller population and overall economy size compared to Thailand, its GDP per capita is higher at $12,000. Unlike Singapore, where jobs can be hard to come by, Malaysia serves as a livelihood base for people from Indonesia, East Timor, and the Philippines. However, issues such as discrimination, inequality, and disregard for human rights are inherent in the relationship between the employer nations, Thailand and Malaysia, and the employee nations. These issues contribute to another layer of conflict and are a defining characteristic of Southeast Asia. The last, third factor is the diversity of religions. In the continental realm of Southeast Asia, which includes Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, Buddhism predominates. The maritime realm is more complex. In Singapore, over half of the population practices Buddhism, but there are also significant Muslim and Christian communities. The Philippines and East Timor are predominantly Catholic. The rest, including Indonesia, the world's largest Muslim-majority country along with Malaysia and Brunei, are predominantly Islamic. The profound influence of religion on each country's social and cultural fabric is undeniable. Additionally, the varying religions among Southeast Asian nations are a clear potential source of conflict that threatens peace in the region. Taking all these factors into account, Thailand is often the most resented country in Southeast Asia. There are also several countries with delicate rivalries, akin to a game of rock, paper, scissors, where losing isn't an option. In the second part, we'll focus more on these inter-country relationships.